Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. So welcome once again, dear devotees. We are discussing Srila Rupa Goswami's Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam, and I am very happy to be discussing this series on Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam of Srila Rupa Goswami, and we are studying in great detail. I think for the first verse itself, we had more than 10 talks, and we covered all the aspects in a great amount of detail. And therefore, we are continuing the same, and we are discussing our third verse currently. Before we continue, it's important to express gratitude and offer obeisances, especially to the author, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who composed this literature for us. Therefore, I offer a special, freshly composed verse. Every time we should offer something new to the Acharyas, because the Acharyas like that, something which is new, handmade, personal. So, something from my side to Srila Rupa Goswami. Jnane Saraswati Rupam Vyasa Rupam Cha Shikshane Natye Bharata Rupam Tam Shri Rupam Pranamamyaham. Jnane Saraswati Rupam. And to him who is Saraswati Rupa, personification of Saraswati Devi, in Jnane, in the domain of knowledge. And to him who is Vyasa Rupam, the personification of Vyasadeva, in the domain of Shikshane, imparting instructions. And Natye Bharata Rupam Tam, and unto him who is Bharata Rupa, the personification of Bharat Muni, in the domain of Natya, dramaturgy. Unto that Shri Rupam, Sri Rupa Goswami Pranamamyam, I offer my humble obeisances. So I always pray that Srila Rupa Goswami will be pleased with this effort to discuss this text. I am sure that Srila Rupa Goswami keeps a close eye on all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas who are belonging to his family. So I pray that someday he will notice that there was an effort to discuss his text, Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam, in some detail. And I hope that this effort will be extremely pleasing to him. Now, we are continuing the third instruction. Utsahan nishchayat dhairyat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vritteh shadbhir bhaktih prasiddhyati. We have seen this anvaya, word for word arrangement previously. We just have to read it in a sequence. So bhakti is perfected by these six, namely utsahat, by enthusiasm, nishchayat, by determination, dhairyat, by perseverance, tat karma pravartanat, by execution of all acts favorable to bhakti, sangatyagat, by giving up unfavorable association, and following the conduct of the sadhus, sato vritteh. So this is our third verse. Today we are focusing on dhairyat, perseverance. The term dhairyat, etymologically, it means dhirasya bhavaha. Dhairya basically means dhirasya bhavaha. So what is dhairya? It means bhavaha, the essential mood of a dhirasya, of a persevering individual, is known as dhairya. So the original term is dhira, and because you have to express the essential mood of a dhira. So we want to express dhira-ness, the essential mood of being a dhira. Therefore, through Panini's sutras, we add a suffix which is used to express the essential mood. So shyai is the suffix. Dhira plus shyai, the sha and ya, they get deleted. So what remains is dhira plus ya. This is from Panini's Sutra Gunavachana Brahmanadibhya Karmanicha in the 5th chapter of Ashtadhyaya. So it gets the suffix ya, and then by another sutra, Tadviteshvachamadeh, it becomes, dhira becomes dhair, and the ya remains. So finally you get dhairya. And since this term is neuter in gender, it becomes dhairyam. Dhairyam means perseverance or patience. And when you want to say by perseverance or by patience, by exhibiting perseverance, by exhibiting patience, you make it dhairyat, ablative case. So dhairyat is by exhibiting perseverance, by exhibiting patience. So perseverance and patience are the rough English translations of the term dhairya. So we will see what is dhairya in more detail. Our commentators are here to help us understand what is dhairya. The first commentator, Sri Radharaman Goswami, explains what is dhairyat. He says dhairyat is swa abhishta vilambepi tat tad anga ashaithilyat. He says dhairya means tat tad anga ashaithilyat, to not become slack in executing one's required limbs of bhakti, even if there is a vilamba, delay, in attaining the swa abhishta, the desired goal. So all of us, when we start on the path of bhakti, we have a desired goal. In this life, I will go back home, back to Godhead. I will attain perfection and the spiritual world will be mine. But in some time we realize that there is vilamba, there is great delay. So this is just like Google Maps. We start off from our home and Google tells us 40 minutes to the destination. And when we are on the road, it changes to 1 hour 30 minutes. So swa abhishta vilambe. So there is a delay in reaching the destination. Still, tat tad anga ashaithilyat, to not give up the limbs of bhakti and to not become slack in their execution. So this is dhairya. So that is patiently continuing the process of bhakti. Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura gives the exact same meaning in the Bengali language. Dhairya abhishta labhe vilambya dekhiya sadhana ange shaithilya nakara. So same translation, I don't need to translate this separately because the same English translation which is there for Sri Radharaman Goswami, exact same translation is applicable for this one too. So to not become slack in executing one's required limbs of bhakti, even if there is a delay in attaining the desired goal. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura. So as usual, he loves to elaborate. So he elaborates. He says, Jnanadi margatraya jeeva ke chanchal karaye. Ekmatra bhakti pathai baddha jivera abhilashvita marga. Ei rupa sthir vishwasi dhairya. He says the 3 paths, karma, jnana, and anya abhilash, desires besides bhakti, any other path, make a living entity fickle-minded. Only bhakti is the true desirable path for the conditioned soul. So such stability, such perseverance of faith is known as dhairya. Then he says, Bhakti patha haite kona kale kahara asuvita haipe na ei rupa dharana. So to have dhairya means to have dharana, firmness of thought, which makes one think that there is no inconvenience at any time on the path of bhakti. But we see so many inconveniences, obviously, but they are negligible in comparison to the inconveniences that you see on other paths. So, in comparison to other paths, there is no inconvenience on the path of bhakti. To have this firm mindset is known as dhairya. Then he also quotes a few verses from the Bhagavatam. I will quickly give pointers. He quotes Bhagavatam 10:232 and 10:233, which basically say that those who follow other paths but disrespect Vishnu and Vishnu Bhakti, they fall down. But those who are Vishnu's devotees never fall down in the same manner. So therefore, have dhairya, have patience. Don't become intolerant. Because once you become intolerant, then progress may be lost. And then he quotes a verse from Sri Haridas Thakur. Khanda khanda haya deha jayadi prana tabu ami vadanena chari hari nama. Sri Haridas Thakur was being beaten in various marketplaces, and Sri Haridas Thakur says, Khanda khanda haya deha. Even if my body is cut into pieces, jai yadi pran, and even if I lose my life, tabu ame vadanena chadi harinam. Tabu ame vadanena. Still, I will never give up chanting harinam, Bhagwan's naam. This is from Chaitanya Bhagavat. No matter how difficult the situation is, not giving up the practice of bhakti. Sometimes you see some individuals, in the first year of bhakti, they are wearing 3 rounds of Kanthi Mala. After 5 years, it reduces to 2 rounds. After 10 years, it reduces to 1 round. After 15 years, they become a free thinker, and the Kanthi Mala is gone forever. So, this is because of slackening of bhakti due to not having dhairya, due to not having patience. I want everything and I want it right now. This mindset is not favorable for the path of devotional service. We will explain why. But we will also see there is another definition of dhairya. First definition of dhairya is to remain patient, to wait. And there is another aspect of dhairya, and that is to not become agitated. So dhairya has 2 aspects. First is to learn how to wait. Second is to learn how to not become agitated. So both aspects. Srila Rupa Goswami also defines dhairya in Ujjvala nilamanih. Although this definition is in another context, but it carries that another aspect of dhairya, which is also very important. Sri Rupa Goswami defines dhairya in Ujjvala nilamanih as follows. Sthira chittonnatir yatu sa dhairyam iti kathyate. So sthira chitta unnatir. Chitta unnatir, even when there is an agitation in consciousness, but sthira, to maintain stability in the consciousness, even when there is cause for agitation. That, dear devotees, is known as dhairya. So to not become agitated. Let me give a very simple example of this. But before that, we will see same definition by Srila Vishvanatha Chakravarthy Thakura. He says, Shobhasya karanepi, Shobha anudbhavo dhairyamiti. Sri Vishvanatha Chakravarthy Thakura says in his commentary to Ujjvala nilamanih. Shobhasya karanepi, even though there may be a reason for disturbance, but Shobha anudbhavo, to remain undisturbed, is known as dhairya, perseverance. So we started off, there are these 2 aspects are there. First is perseverance, and second is non-agitation. So both aspects are there to dhairya. So in one example, I will explain both these aspects. So we started off from our home, and Google Maps showed 40 minutes. And as soon as we touched the highway, it changed to 1 hour 30 minutes. Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, what would be my natural reaction when this happens?
To become upset.
Right. So to become upset, I do not wish to drive anymore. Let's go back home. Now, if I go back home, I'll not be able to reach my workplace. So I have to persevere. First thing is I have to persevere in the traffic. Now, while I am persevering, I cannot become agitated upon those who are driving with me in the car, and I cannot become agitated towards those who are other drivers driving other cars. If I do that, what will happen, Dhāmeśvara Prabhu?
You'll be acting inappropriately.
Yeah. And if it turns into a big incident, the police might get involved. So, these are two aspects of dhairya. First is perseverance. Don't turn back now. You have already started on the path. Second, non-agitation. Don't become agitated. So, some of us have a nature that they easily become agitated. It's especially difficult for them to control this second aspect, but we all should try not to become agitated, especially when there is a delay in attaining the desired goal on the path of our bhajan. So, a very simple example, Dhāmeśvara Prabhu. I have to drink water and I am in a desert. There is only one, container of water with me, but that container of water has become muddy. Now I want to drink water from this container and I am thirsty. So what can I do right now? I am in the middle of a desert. What can I do in order to ensure that the water becomes pure? Dhāmeśvara Prabhu.
Somehow you have to distill it and purify it.
But I am in the middle of a desert, Prabhu. I don't have anything. I just have this. And I want this to turn into this. This water should become like this. So, Prabhu, is there anything that I can do to the water in order to, make the dust settle?
You can wait.
Yes, 100%. Therefore, I like you as a host. You give the most perfect answers.
You really had to hint hard on that one for me to get it.
So, there is, in some times in life, there is nothing that you can do. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Once you have this, there are only two things you can do. Either drink impure water or have some patience and wait. Waiting. Dhairya, both aspects of dhairya are involved here. First is perseverance and patience is required. Because if you don't wait, you will have to drink muddy water. Second, non-agitation. If you become frustrated and try to, you put your hand and try to agitate the water, what will happen, Dhāmeśvara Prabhu? Will it help my cause or will it?
No, it'll get worse.
It will get worse. So, similar is our condition in bhakti. Our mind is like the container on the left-hand side. And we want our mind to become like the container on the right-hand side. So, obviously, limbs of bhakti are going to purify. But besides that, there is one more thing which is needed. It is dhairya, perseverance, patience, and second thing is non-agitation. Don't become agitated. Don't try to force the process. Sometimes we want to force the process of bhakti to act quickly upon us. And this is a major issue because in many occasions it doesn't work. Today I am chanting 16 rounds. Today I decide I want, from today I want extra purification. So today, starting today, I will chant 32 rounds. So I double my sadhana, thinking that by my efforts, I will achieve double purification. So it is not about mathematics. Purification is not a mathematical game. In the previous talk also I explained, it's not about Sankhya-vad. It's not simply a game of numbers. So it is beyond Sankhya. And we have to understand this principle. So our perfection is not going to come on our demand. Because everywhere in life, we have the habit of demanding things. I order on Amazon and it should come next day on demand. Nowadays you have online music like YouTube and videos on demand. I click on something and it should appear in front of me on demand. So why not bhakti on demand, pure bhakti on demand? So the reason is because perfection is not on demand, especially in bhakti. There's a very nice verse, Subhasita verse, which illustrates this point. Achodhyamanani yatha pushpani cha phalani cha swam kalam nati vartante tatha dharma purakritam. Achodhyamanani yatha pushpani cha phalani cha. Fruits and flowers naturally spring up at their proper destined time, even without any external impetus. Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, if I want a spring flower to sprout in the current month of December, where you are staying, is there anything I can do?
No, you have to wait.
But I want that spring flower now. I want it today, Prabhu. Is there anything that can be done to bring a spring flower in December? Nothing.
Maybe. Maybe.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. There is nothing you can do. So when spring season arises, you won't even have to do anything. It will arise on its own. Achodhyamanani. Without any external impetus, it will arise. Don't worry. In the previous class, there were many devotees asking, how can I get Raganuga Bhakti? How can I quickly progress? Hey Papa, wait. Everything has its proper time. So don't become adhira. Don't become impatient. So swam kalam nati vartante. They don't, they follow their proper time. So tatha dharma purakrita. Similarly is the case with dharma, religiosity. It bears its desired fruit only at a specific destined time. Now, who decides that time? That time will not be decided by us. So that is not in our hands. The fruit is not in our hands. The result is not in our hands. So it is in whose hands? So perfection is only by Bhagwan's sweet will. Always remember, in any path, whether it is Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, perfection is attained only by the sweet will of Bhagwan. This is very clearly mentioned in the Upanishads. Nayam atma pravachanena labhyo namedhayana bahuna shrutena yamevaisha vrinate tena labhyas tasyaisha atma vivrinate tanum swam. Nayam atma pravachanena labhyo. Katha Upanishad. Atma, the supreme soul, na pravachanena labhyo, is not attainable simply by pravachan, by a study of Vedas. Na medhaya. Don't think that by your intelligence you will attain him. Sorry, it is not possible. Na bahuna shrutena, nor by hearing from various realized authorities. No. Then how then can he be attained? Yam evaisha vrinute. Tena labhyas. He is only obtained by a person whom he himself personally selects. And tasyaisha atma vivrinute tanum swam. Only to such a person he manifests his own form. So he will select. It's not, Bhagwan is not some commodity in a supermarket that we go and, purchase 2 kgs of Krishna Bhakti and, purchase Bhagavan from the supermarket and bring him home and remain happy ever after. It is dependent upon Bhagavan's sweet will. And there is nothing, absolutely nothing that we can do to force that to change. There is nothing that we can do to influence him. There are a few things that we can do, but there is nothing major that we can do. Mainly, it has to come from him. And therefore, it was discussed in the previous session. One of the 6 qualities of pure bhakti is sudurlabha. It is rare because Bhagavan doesn't give it so easily. So, it comes from his own sweet will. And therefore, what we can do is, right now, whatever situation we are in our process of bhakti, learn to be satisfied with whatever stage of progress that has been attained. Sometimes we see other devotees who are progressing and then we become insecure. Oh, this devotee has attained 2nd initiation and I am not even first initiated. Oh, this devotee is cooking for Guru Maharaj and I am not even initiated. I don't even have a proper name. So, looking at the progress of others, one becomes insecure in one's mind. So, the advice to be given here is that please remain satisfied in the progress that you have made. So, be satisfied, be peaceful. Definitely, there will be dissatisfaction. We want to progress ahead. We want to progress more, definitely. But with whatever we have attained, there should be some degree of satisfaction. Sri Narad Muni says this to Maharaj Dhruva. Yasya yaddaiva vihitam satena sukha dukkhayo atmanam toshayandehi tamasaha paramrachati. Yasya yaddaiva vihitam satena sukha dukkhayo. One should try to keep himself satisfied in any condition of life, whether distress or happiness, which is offered by the Supreme Will. Atmanam toshayandehi. Tamasaha paramrichyati. A person who endures in this way is able to cross over the darkness of nations very easily. The first thing in dhairya is learn not to become too impatient. Be satisfied with the progress that has been made. Devotees are much better than thousands and thousands of people who are non-devotees who were never introduced to Krishna Bhakti. Our good fortune is much better than many of them. So therefore, some degree of satisfaction with our progress should be there in our character. Now, Srila Rupa Goswami is also sometimes dissatisfied. As I said, although we should try to have satisfaction in our position, from time to time dissatisfaction will arise. So it arises even in great personalities. Sometimes I was thinking, maybe Srila Rupa Goswami is fully satisfied with his progress. But this is not the case. Sri Rupa Goswami, in a very nice verse in the Stava Mala, very nice verse, he says something. This verse is in the meter Manda Kranta, very nice meter. Prachinanam bhajanamatulam tushkaram shrinvato me nairashyena jvalati hridayam bhakti leshalasasya vishwadrichim agaharatava karnya karunya vichim asha bindu kshitamidam upaityantare hanta shaityam. He says, Bhakti leshalasasya. O destroyer of Aghasura, Agahara, O Krishna, I am Bhakti lesha alasaha. Bhakti leshepi alasaha yasya. I am lazy in performing even a tiny fragment of devotional service. And thus, when I hear about the Prachinanam Bhajanam, incomparable devotional service performed by my previous sadhus who came before me, what happens to me? Nairashyena jvalati hridaya. My heart naturally burns out of disappointment. So when we hear about Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura, in our generation we hear Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura performing such nice bhajan, our heart also burns in disappointment that it is impossible for us. So Srila Rupa Goswami also feels the same. But then he says, Vishwad Richim Agahara Tava Karnya Karunya Vichim. So, but when I hear about your all-pervading waves of mercy in the universe, which benefits all living entities, from Brahma all the way down to the lowest creatures, then Asha Bindu Kshitamidam Upaiti Antare Hantashayya. Then my heart is immediately cooled down due to being touched by a moistened drop of hope. So he always maintains this hope, Srila Rupa Goswami, that no matter how difficult my situation is, I am still having some hope in my life. So, therefore, we should understand that we have to exhibit dhairya, patience, like Srila Rupa Goswami. We can't force the process, we can't force Bhakti Devi, and we can't threaten the Supreme Lord. Bhagavan, give me perfection, otherwise what? Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, Krishna, give me perfection, else. And Krishna says, else what? So Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, what can we say for else? Can we say anything?
No, there's no threat you can make.
Yeah. So some devotees, they start doing else. Else means I will start reducing my rounds of Kanthi Mala in my neck. I will stop practicing my limbs of bhakti. So Bhagavan, he says, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tathaiva bhajan. If the mood in which you surrender, I will reciprocate accordingly. If you are going to surrender with a mood of frustration, then I also will reciprocate accordingly. There will be delay. So, Sri Vallabhacharya, from the Pushti Marg tradition, he wrote a very beautiful text on dhairya. What is dhairya? What is patience in devotional life? So he wrote a text called Viveka Dhairya Ashraya. 3 qualities that are required for a devotee. Viveka, proper discrimination. Dhairya, our today's topic. And Ashraya, surrender to the Lord. So from that he defines what is dhairya. He says, Tridukha sahanam dhairyam amritehe sarvatah sada. Tridukha sahanam dhairyam. To have the capability of tolerating threefold miseries till the last moment of one's life is also dhairya. So dhairya doesn't only mean, to patiently wait while, your sadhan bhakti is getting delayed. Dhairya also means to not become impatient, to not get agitated when there are miseries in material life. And to tolerate the threefold miseries. Amritehe, till one's death. Sarvatah sada, in all ways. And how should one do? He says, everyone who has attained a material body should learn tolerance, should learn patience, while remembering the following examples. He gives 3 beautiful examples. What are the 3 examples? He says, Takravat, Tehavad, Bhavyam, Jadavat, Kopabharyavat. He says the 3 examples. First is the queen who sold buttermilk. Second is Jad Bharat. And third is the gopis. Now these examples, I will explain one by one. First he says, remember the example of the queen who sold buttermilk. Now this is a story which is quoted in the Pushti Marga Sampradaya. In their Sampradaya, they quote this story. And what is this story? So once upon a time, there was a queen. And this queen, she was having an illicit affair even before she got married to the king. So even before she got married, she was having an illicit affair with a paramour. And her paramour told her that, before you get married to this king, better you, kill him and run away with me. So We get married, get some property, kill him, run away with him. So then she fed poison to, on the day of her marriage, she fed poison to the king. And she ran away with this paramour. And when she ran away with this paramour, she was running away, but by misfortune, her paramour also got bit by a snake and he died. So now she cannot return back to the kingdom because she has killed the king. She has poisoned him. And this person, her paramour, is also dead. So she started roaming around like a vagabond, like a hippie, from one village to another. And slowly, due to a bad association, she took up the profession of a prostitute. Now, one day, a customer came to her, but she did not recognize that customer so easily. She thought, I have seen him somewhere, but she did not recognize him. And when the customer, he enjoyed with her, and after, when he was leaving, she asked him his name. What is your name? Can you please tell me? And when he told his name, she was shocked because it was actually a relative from her own previous family. So she accidentally ended up having an illicit relationship with a member of her own family. She was so disheartened that she wanted to give up her life. So she went to a crematorium and she wanted to set fire to herself. But somehow she could not even gather the strength to do that. So she started living once again on the street. And gradually she came in contact with a few cowherd ladies. And in their association, she started selling buttermilk. Now one day when she was selling buttermilk, suddenly a group of dacoits, bandits came and threatened all of them and forcibly took all the buttermilk from them. So all the other ladies started crying out loudly. Today we lost so much. Today we are in big trouble. And this lady was absolutely unperturbed. When they asked her, why are you not crying? So she said, I have tolerated and seen so much in life that this simple loss of buttermilk now is not going to affect me at all. So what Sri Vallabhacharya wants to say is, the greatest calamity has already occurred. What was the greatest calamity? Our desired paramour was Bhagwan Krishna. Our desired love was Bhagwan Krishna. Giving him up, we ran away with Maya Devi, who was supposed to be our paramour. But she also turned out to be somebody else. And now here in the material world, we are roaming around like a vagabond. And any other calamity that occurs is nothing in comparison to the original calamity of rejecting the association of Bhagavan. Dear devotees, please know this. This story it's an allegorical story. So, the queen who sold buttermilk, please remember that there is no bigger calamity that will occur than what has already occurred. We lost Krishna's association. We could not attain Krishna. That was the greatest calamity. And second is Jadavat. Remember Sri Jadbharat, who was about to be slaughtered by the dacoits. And till the last moment of his life, he was patient. He did not protest. So remember this example. And Gopa Bharyavat, remember the example of gopis. Even though they attained perfection, they attained Krishna's association. But one fine night when Krishna was playing on his flute, they all wanted to meet him. But even in such spiritual activities, they were prevented by their husbands from meeting him in the dead of the night. So Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, when they were prevented by their husbands, what did the gopis do? Leave their husbands?
They waited at home.
Yeah. So they waited. Some of them had immense dejection in their heart. Some of them felt burning separation from Bhagavan, but they tolerated. See, this is what he's asking us. Remember these examples. First example, the queen who sold buttermilk is an allegorical example of the jiva in the material world. Second is Jad Bharat. Third is the gopis, who even in the spiritual world, in spiritual pastimes, they are sometimes prevented from meeting Bhagavan. So please remember these three examples and remember that there has to be tolerance till the last moment of life. One time, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura was asked, can you point out one verse in the Bhagavatam which, if followed, will surely lead us back to Godhead? The sure qualification for going back to Godhead. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura was asked. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura said, there is only one verse. If you follow your life according to the teachings given in this one verse, then your path to perfection is guaranteed. What is that verse? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura quoted that one verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Tattenu kampam susamikshramano bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam ridvag papurbir vidadhan namaste jivetya mukti pade sadaya bhak. He says, Tattenu kampam susamikshramano bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits, dhairya, for you to bestow your causeless mercy. Because this causeless mercy cannot be forced, as we discussed previously. Yam evaisha vrinute, he will select. Wait patiently. One who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him. All the while patiently suffering. Bhunjana. The term bhunjana is made using the suffix shanach. It continuous present tense. While suffering, while currently suffering, patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds. And ridvag vapurbhir vidadhan. And while offering namah, while offering obeisances through his heart, body, minds, not becoming, not in a grudging manner, because some devotees become negative towards Bhagavan. So to not have any grudge towards Bhagavan, I have done something in my past, something negative, which is affecting me in this life. It is affecting me, it is not affecting other devotees. It is affecting me. Why only me? Why was it only me who did not get the following things? Why was it only me who is suffering in my relationships? Why was it only me? So the answer to this why is rooted in the past, dear devotees. Why was it only us, not somebody else? The answer to this is rooted in the past. One who understands this maturely and one who remains favorable and continues to execute the process of bhakti, mukti padesa dayabhak. For him, liberation becomes dayabhak. Dayabhak means inherited right. His inherited right. So Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, let's say my father has acquired some property. Now what do I have to do in order to inherit that property? Please tell me.
You just have to wait.
Wait. Patiently wait. So patiently wait according to the will of my father. That is what is the answer. So patiently wait according to the will of my father. Then I will get daibhak. Daibhak means inheritance from my father. But if I become impatient with my own father, then I may not receive my daibhak. I may not receive my inheritance. Therefore, it's important to not become impatient with Bhagavan. Do not become unfavorable towards Bhagavan. If we want daibhak, mukti daibhak, liberation as our inherited rightful claim. Now, one who waits, for him, Bhagavan himself has to come and give. Bhagavan will come. The best example of this, to patiently wait despite the most negative circumstances, was seen in the life of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's own disciple, Srila Prabhupada. Now I am, please dear devotees, we have heard this, but I want to narrate this in a slightly different fashion. When Srila Prabhupada was in India for many years, almost a decade, he struggled from one corner to another. Everywhere in India, he struggled to start a preaching movement dedicated to propagating Krishna Bhakti. There was very little success in Srila Prabhupada's efforts in India. And one time, Srila Prabhupada, I'm just trying to narrate how unfavorable it was. One time, Srila Prabhupada went to one of his god brothers and requested, can you please sponsor a ticket for me to go to the West? Can you please sponsor a ticket for me to go to the West? Do you know what Srila Prabhupada's god brother said? He said, first you come here, we will check if you are eligible to preach in the West. And if we think that you are eligible to preach in the West, then according to our terms and conditions, we will send you under our guidance to the West. How does that sound, Dhāmeśvara Prabhu?
It sounds like they really underestimated him.
Yeah. So, sounds like standard institution. We will check if you are eligible or not. So, this is what Srila Prabhupada had to go through. Depression from all corners. Srila Prabhupada's own personal family life situation was also not very favorable. When he was on the port in Calcutta, he was boarding the ship Jaladuta. So at that time, that ticket was sponsored by Sumati Morarji. Srila Prabhupada had 40 rupees approximately in his pocket. There was one relative who came to see him off. Nobody else came to see him. The entire business was destroyed that he had, in his Grihastha ashram, his pharmaceutical business was destroyed. And almost everybody was unfavorable, including the person who sponsored the ticket. Sumati Morarji told Srila Prabhupada, you are an old man who is going to die there. In these situations, he was outside Jaladuta ship, and when he climbed the Jaladuta on that very night, Krishna decides to take 2 severe tests in the form of 2 heart attacks. Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, if I would be there, if I would be put in a similar situation, I would say, turn the ship back. I did so much for you. I did so much for propagating your movement, Krishna. My family life is gone. My business is gone. Everything is gone. And now that I have fully dedicated myself to preaching your movement. I have nothing with me. And now, you can't prevent 2 heart attacks. And in this situation, in this dire situation, still Srila Prabhupada does not give up his most important quality of devotional service, his favorability towards Bhagavan. And because he doesn't give up his favorability towards Bhagavan, even in the most difficult situation, usually Bhagavan does not appear in Kali Yuga. Bhagavan Krishna usually does not appear in Kali Yuga. But seeing the surrender and favorability and patience of his dear devotee, Bhagavan appeared in that iron container in Kali Yuga in front of Srila Prabhupada. And Krishna placed his hand on the chest of Srila Prabhupada and finally told him that, dear Abhay, now henceforth, you don't need to worry. I will take care of everything. And then the great disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura saw that he was not alone, but all the incarnations of Bhagavan arrived with him in his journey to bring bhakti to the entire world, beginning with the United States of America. So this, dear devotees, is dhairya. If this is not dhairya, I cannot imagine a better, exhibition of dhairya in one's life. Our movement was founded by a person who never exhibited any grudge towards Bhagwan, even in the most dire situations of his life. And this is something which we all should learn from. The great disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, our Srila Prabhupada. So, dear devotees, we should learn to exhibit dhairya. Srila Prabhupada exhibited so much dhairya in his life. And if we give up dhairya with a few negative incidences in life, and if we say, I didn't do anything to deserve this, then it shows a lack of dhairya on our side. Sri Vallabhacharya therefore says, Pratikaro yadrichatah siddhaschainnagrahi bhavet. So sometimes, dear devotees, if it is possible that you are suffering in, and if it is possible by some means to get out of the suffering, then if a remedy is possible, then don't become falsely proud and continue to suffer. Take the remedy and continue your bhajan. Because sometimes devotees become so negative. They say, I'll continue to suffer. If Bhagwan wants me to suffer, I'll continue to suffer. So Sri Vallabhacharya says, this is also another way of expressing unfavorability. If there is a remedy available, and if such a remedy helps one's bhakti, then don't become falsely proud and don't falsely continue to suffer. Take the remedy. And Sri Vallabhacharya says, meanwhile, when the misery is there, bharyadinam tathanyesham asatas chakramam sahet. Sometimes worst miseries will come from one's spouse, etc., one's relatives, sometimes from the community of devotees. Keep your tolerance intact. Continue to tolerate. I remember there was, from not far away from where I stay, there is a temple which is maintained by the followers of Sri Vallabhacharya. There a lady used to come who I was told was suffering from great abuse in her home, because her own in-laws sometimes used to beat her, physically abuse her. So her own mother-in-law sometimes would abuse her. And everybody knew in the temple, everybody knew that she is suffering like this. But she would come every day, offer her obeisances to Sri Vallabhacharya, do parikrama of the, Giriraj. They have a Giriraj here, a replica of Giriraj, a small replica. She used to do parikrama. She used to pray every day. And for many years passed, but she never gave up her forbearance, her patience. And one fine day when I went to visit, and suddenly everybody seemed very happy. And I asked, why is everybody happy today? So they said, you heard the good news? I said, what good news? Say, her mother-in-law died today. Her mother-in-law died today. So Bhagwan decided a specific day on which she was to get rid of her miseries, because she didn't have any other place to go. If she would have had some place to go, she could have gone, but she didn't have any other place to go. So for her, she had to tolerate. So Bhagwan, on a specific day is going to take away miseries from our life. So till that time, dear devotees, don't become impatient. This is Sri Vallabhacharya's teaching. And don't become slackened in your bhakti. Just because you are tolerating, don't slacken your bhakti. This is swayamindriya karyani kayavang manasatyajet ashurenapi kartavyam ashurenapi. One should give up sense gratification through one's body, mind and words, execute bhakti nicely. Even a weak sadhak should try. Even a person who is weak should try his or her best. And finally, if you see that it is not possible, somehow I am not able to give up sense gratification, I try to wait for long, it's not happening, Sri Vallabhacharya says, finally, Ashakye Harirevasti Sarvam Ashrayato Bhavet. If even this is not possible, finally surrender completely. Bhagavan, this is what I am. I surrender wholeheartedly to you. I could not do it. I am very sorry. I could not follow the process nicely. Surrender wholeheartedly to Bhagavan. In this way, exhibit your dhairya and consider Hari to be one's exclusive shelter. Dear devotees, in this way, exhibit dhairya, patience, non-agitation in all aspects of life and stop worrying. Don't live a worried life. It's a very nice verse, which he says, very nice verse. I really love some of his verses. He says, Chinta kapi na karya nireditatmabhi kadapi te Bhagavan api pushtistho na karishyati laukikim jagatim. Chinta kapi na karya. Those who have surrendered to Bhagavan should never ever worry about anything. Don't worry about anything. If you are on the path of Raganuga Bhakti, if you are on the proper path, you should know that Bhagavan himself is situated on this path and he will not bestow a worldly result upon you. Definitely, you are going to get a transcendental result. You will not take rebirth as a karmi. And just because Bhagavan is not appearing in front of your eyes, just because you don't feel the progress, doesn't mean that you are going to take rebirth as a karmi. Bhagavan will have to ensure that you progress. It is Bhagavan's headache to ensure that you will have to progress. So you don't become impatient. You continue to execute your bhakti nicely. Chinta kapi na karya. Don't worry about how it will happen, how will perfection come, when will it come, it will come. You patiently continue to execute the process. And, keep your ashabandha. Rupa Goswami says, keep your ashabandha. What is ashabandha? Your bond of hope. Ashabandho bhagavata prapti sambhavana dridha. Ashabandha means to have firm faith that always the possibility is there to attain the Lord. I'll give a very small example. Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, you might have seen Kamal Tantu. Kamal Tantu means the stem of a lotus, it has these fibers. Have you seen these fibers inside the stem of a lotus? Lotus stalk.
I'm not sure.
Okay. So if you take the stalk of a lotus, if you break it, then if you start pulling it apart, you will see these tiny fibers that are there inside the lotus stem. Now, if you notice these fibers are very thin. But no matter how much you try to pull them apart, they grow thinner, but they never break. They never break. This is Ashabandha. That my hope is getting thinner by the day, but it never breaks. Finally, I have hope that I will attain it. So next time we see a lotus, everybody, homework for everybody. Next time we see a lotus, take the stem of the lotus and break it into two, and then see the threads and try to separate it and see the threads. The threads become thinner, but for a long distance, they don't break. So this is Ashabandha. Ashabandha means hope against hope. That there is always a possibility. I will attain Bhagwan in this very life. And in your bhakti, keep your happiness. So everything is not simply about the goal. You don't have to remain unhappy till the goal is attained. The process also is very enjoyable, is very pleasurable. I will end with this verse from Sri Ishvar Puri, who is spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Very nice verse in the Padyavali. Sri Ishvar Puri was once asked by certain impersonalists, you are continuously chanting this name of Bhagavan and you are not studying Vedanta, you are not meditating upon the impersonal Brahman, although you are a sannyasi in the Puri Sampradaya. In Shankaracharya's Sampradaya, he was a sannyasi. So even though Ishvar Puri was a sannyasi in Adishankaracharya's Sampradaya, Still, he used to chant Bhagwan's names and did not study Vedanta or did not meditate upon the impersonal Brahman. Sometime some impersonalists asked him, why do you do that? Don't you want to get liberated? So Sri Ishvar Puri had a very sweet reply. His reply is recorded in the Padyavali. This verse is in the meter Shardula Vikriditam. Yoga Shrutyupapatti Nirjanavana Dhyanadva Sambhavita Swarajyam Pratipadya Nirbhayamami Mukta Bhavantu Dvija Asmakam Tu Kadamba Kunja Kuhara Pronmilarindivara Shreni Shyamala Dhama Nama Chushata Janmastu Lakshavadhi. Sri Ishvar Puri said to the impersonalists, Yoga, there are many people who are following Ashtanga Yoga. Shrutyupapatti, there are many people who are following Shruti, the path of the Vedas. Nirjanavana Dhyan, some people are meditating in the desolate forest. Sambhavita, it is possible that by following all these paths, yoga, Vedas, meditating in the forest, it is possible, Sambhavita, Swarajyam, that they will attain impersonal liberation. Pratipadya, and attaining this liberation, Nirbhayam Ami, they will enter into the kingdom of fearlessness. They will become liberated. But if they become liberated, Mukta Bhavantu, let them become liberated. Let everybody become liberated through these processes. Bhavantu, let them become liberated. You don't want? No. I am here. I am happy here. So what do you want here in the material world? The asma kampu. For me, however, I want one thing. Kadamba kunja kuhara. Kadamba trees. You see those kadamba trees in Vrindavan? Those thick kadamba trees in Vrindavan? Kunja. So in the kunja of kadamba trees, kuhara, in that dense darkness, pron nilad indivara. So there is like a blue lotus who is glowing. Can you see that blue colored light coming from those kadamba trees in Vrindavan? Yamala dhama. It's like a complete abode of dark bluish beauty. And nama jushatam. And I want to taste the name of that dark beauty. And janma astu lakshavadhi. May I pass millions of lives in this manner, tasting the names of that dark-hued person. He doesn't name him directly, if you notice. He doesn't name him directly. I want to relish for millions of lives the name of that person whose bluish hue is enchanting me from that dark Kadamba forest there in Vrindavan. Let me spend millions of lives in this manner. Dear devotees, Krishna became the disciple of this person. Krishna became the disciple of this person who has so much dhairya, who has so much patience in his spiritual life. So always have this attitude. I am not in a hurry. Let Krishna come. Always have this attitude, like Ishvar Puri. So here is the translation. Let the twice born enter the fearless kingdom of yoga, Vedic study, solitary meditation in the forest. Let them become liberated in that way. As for us, we will spend hundreds and thousands of births chanting the holy name of Bhagavan Krishna. Splendid dark complexion are like a host of blue lotus flowers blooming in a grove of Kadamba trees in Shri Vrindavan Dham. Dear devotees, this is what we want. We are patiently willing to wait. Krishna wants to take time. We want to take even more time. No problem. We are happy here. We are happy in the process. We are very happy in the process. And therefore, the goal will come, it may not come. But let us always have this bhakti in each and every life that we take. That is all that we are asking Bhagavan. That is all that we are asking. Now, whether Krishna wants to give liberation in this life or Krishna wants to give liberation in the future life, that is his headache. I am not going to bother him with that. I am going to bother him with only one thing. Just give taste in your bhajan. Just give me your Raganuga Bhakti, so that I will be able to relish this Bhakti in the mood of the Vrajavasis. As many lives as you want. That you decide. All right, Bhagavan? Let's have a deal. You can liberate all the impersonalists, give them liberation in this life. And give me Raganuga Bhakti life after life. This is the mood of Sri Ishvar Puri. Dear devotees, always keep this mood. Thank you very much. Yadatra Skhalitam Kinchit, Vidvam Saha Purayantu Tat. Yadatra Saushthavam Kinchit, Tad Guroreva Mene. Yadatra Skhalitam Kinchit. If there are any mistakes in my presentation, Vidvamsa. You are all learned devotees. Purayantu Tat. You correct any mistakes that I have made. But Yadatra Saushthavam Kinchit. If there's anything nice in the presentation, even if a single slide was nice, I'm sure Sri Ishvar Puri's slide was nice. Remember, Tad Guroreva. It belongs to my Gurujanas. It belongs to my Diksha Guru, my Shiksha Gurus, all the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, all the God brothers of Srila Prabhupada, all the Vaishnavas from all the Sampradayas in the past, in the present, in the future, including all of you. It belongs to all of you. May nahi. Doesn't belong to me. So with this, dear devotees, I thank you very much. And I would like to say, before the question and answers begins, one small request that please try to keep the Q&A focused on the current topic. Sometimes what happens is that the talk is on a particular topic and the question and answers, devotees start asking question and answers from their personal study in another lecture, in a lecture which is not related to that topic. So we should try to avoid that, because when somebody else will hear the recording, so they should hear questions which are pertinent to the talk. So one time I was giving a talk and the talk was based on Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. After the talk, somebody had come with a diary and said, I have 8 questions. So I said, oh, all right. He said, my first question is, in Srimad Bhagavatam 4th Canto 12th chapter, verse number 9. This is what he said. Can you tell me what is the meaning? Hey Baba, this is not Srimad Bhagavatam 4th Canto 12th chapter, verse number 9. So I'll have to pull out the verse. I'll have to see the exact commentary. And this will spend a lot of time in the other devotees who are listening. So ideally, the question should ideally be based on the current subject matter which is going on. Still, if you have a question from previous talks, that is also welcome. But if you have a very specific question related to your own personal study, so those questions should be asked personally or in some topic which is related to that study. So that is my request to all of you. Questions are always welcome, but questions should be beneficial for other viewers and listeners too. So this is my request to everybody, dear devotees. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu Prabhu, for being such a nice, kind and gracious host. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for a wonderful and very fortifying class. And so we'll get started with the questions. Also, another point is, if you have a question about a previous part of the Upadeshamritam, but you haven't listened to the recordings on that class, the question might have already been asked. So make sure to check those recordings before you ask a question about a previous part of the Upadeshamritam. So, and we'll do one question per person before we go and offer seconds.
Yes.
First, we have Bhavya Bhagavan Prabhu.
Yeah, I think we'll have to ask everybody to unmute here.
Yeah, Krishna Prabhu, then now goes to Srila Prabhupada.
My friends.
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for narrating that past of Srila Prabhupada and enlightening us with the most important verse that can lead us back home, back to Godhead. Prabhuji, just when you began the class, you mentioned that sometimes people get agitated easily, right? So, Prabhuji,
Yeah.
I've come across devotees who are super sensitive, and I mean, in no time they get agitated. So, when Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yasman no dvijate loke, है ना, in that verse, that you don't agitate others and you don't get agitated by others. So how do we really apply that verse practically with those devotees? And sometimes it might be the case that we might fail. So is it we who are on fault at that time because they are super sensitive and that we don't know how to deal with them? So how do we really do that? And Prabhuji, I would once again request you that it's long pending that you take class on Vivek Dhairya Ashray also, Prabhu. Thank
All
you.
right.
Haribol.
So I'll rephrase your question in one or two sentences so that everybody also gets a clearer idea. So you asked that when you are dealing with devotees who are super sensitive, sometimes they are not able to maintain their peace of mind. Sometimes we are not able to maintain our peace of mind. Both things happen. So what to do in such circumstances? First thing is, we should understand one thing about maintaining peace of mind. Maintaining peace of mind is a limb of bhakti. Believe it or not. Maintaining peace of mind is one of the 64 limbs of bhakti. So who says that? So says Srila Rupa Goswami, the 16th limb of bhakti among 64 limbs is Shokadi Avashavartita, to not fall victim to negative emotions such as lamentation, anger, etc. And the verse that Srila Rupa Goswami quotes is Shokamarshadibhirbhavair akrantam yasya manasam katham tatra mukundasya spurti sambhavana bhavet. Yasya manasam, if a person's mind is akrantam, is overrun by bhavair, negative emotions. What negative emotions? Shoka, amarsha, lamentation, anger, etc. Then katham, then what is the possibility? Tatra mukundasya spurti sambhavana bhavet, that there will be any spontaneous remembrance of Bhagavan Mukunda in the mind of such a person. There is no possibility. It's a rhetorical question, rhetorical statement. How is it possible for a person with disturbed mind to have any favorable remembrance of Sri Mukunda? It's not possible. So one of the 64 limbs of bhakti is to maintain a cool head. Please try to understand. Maintaining happiness in one's bhakti is one of the limbs of bhakti. How much more should I emphasize this? That it is directly one of the limbs of bhakti, to not fall a victim to negative emotions. And there is something which Srila Prabhupada also, used to say. There is a very nice conversation with Srila Prabhupada. I'll try to find this conversation where Srila Prabhupada is saying that if somebody is practicing devotional service, but at the same time he is unhappy, then that person is simply a rascal. Directly Prabhupada says, that person is simply a rascal. He uses a very strong word. So Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, let's have a conversation. Let's, do a rewinding of a conversation with Srila Prabhupada. Are you ready, Dhāmeśvara Prabhu?
Yeah.
So Prabhu, you become Srila Prabhupada and I'll become your disciple. Is that okay?
I don't know how to do that, but I'll try.
All right, Prabhu. So you take the role. What I mean to say is, you take the role of Srila Prabhupada. I will take the role of your disciple. All right. So Prabhu, here it is in front of you. I will ask the question. I'll take the role of the devotee. You take the role of Srila Prabhupada. So I'm asking you. Often the devotee thinks that he is more unhappy than the karmis because he knows he is unhappy.
Then that means he's not a devotee.
He's not a devotee?
Yes, he's not a devotee. Devotee means the first sign he will be happy. Brahmabhuta prasanatma. If he's not prasanatma, he's a rascal. He has not entered even devotional life. He's outside. That is the test. Just like Dhruva Maharaj, when he saw Vishnu, he said, "Everything is all right. I don't want anything. Swamin katartosmi varam nagache." That is Vaishnava. And if he is still in want, or unhappiness, that means he has no spiritual life at all. He is simply making a show.
Right. So, Bhavya Bhagwan Prabhu. So, if after coming to spiritual life, we sacrificed everything in the material world to become devotees. Now, if after becoming devotees, we couldn't become happy and our minds are agitated, then we lost everything, actually. We lost the opportunity to become happy in the material world, and even in spiritual circles, we are unhappy. Srila Prabhupada says, if one is a devotee and he is still unhappy in the material sense, he is a raskar. Directly he says, it's a very strong word, but he has to improve. Remaining happy in one's bhakti is one of the 64 limbs of bhakti. I will say specifically limb number 16. To not fall prey to negative emotions is one of the 64 limbs of bhakti. So if you come across such a devotee who is very sensitive, who becomes disturbed, you don't become disturbed. You don't become disturbed and you try not to disturb him, so that he can also be facilitated in this limb of bhakti. So I hope this answers your query to a certain degree of satisfaction. Right. Thank you.
Next, we have Vishwadeep Prabhu.
Everyone will have to ask to unmute because I have.
Sorry. Oh, you blocked
Hare
it.
Krishna.
Okay.
Hare Krishna
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna. Hi, Pranam.
Very nice class and advance Happy New Year. I just have a question that at last you said that Ishvar Puri, although he was belonging to Adishankaracharya group, the Mad Puri Mad, but we know that Ishvar Puri was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri. So how to reconcile that fact?
Sri Ishvar, see the surname Puri is given, is one of the Dashanam. Dashanam means it's one of the 10 surnames given in Sri Adishankaracharya Sampradaya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also received a sannyasi surname Bharti, because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas from Sri Keshav Bharti. So what is his actual sannyas name? Keshav, his name is Krishna Chaitanya Bharti. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's sannyas name is Sri Krishna Chaitanya Bharti. That was his sannyasi name. We call him Mahaprabhu, but the sannyasis at Varanasi used to call him Krishna Chaitanya Bharti. That was his name. So Bharti, Puri, Saraswati, Aranya, all these are Dashanam. There are 10 names in Adi Shankaracharya Sampradaya. So previously, many devotees used to take sannyas in Adi Shankaracharya Sampradaya because before once, at a proper time, one should take to sannyas ashram. So that was previously, this was the thought process in general Indian society. So people used to take sannyas at a proper time. So which sampradaya? So that was not so much important at that time, because ultimately you had the freedom to practice your path. There was no strict institutional based rules at that time. So people would take sannyas in Adi Shankaracharya Sampradaya, like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas in Adi Shankaracharya Sampradaya, but he was a thorough devotee. So that is what Sri Ishvar Puri also has a Puri surname, which belongs to basically, if you see the Puri surname, it is from Adi Shankaracharya Sampradaya. So he may have taken mantra diksha from Madhva Sampradaya, but his sannyas diksha is from Adi Shankaracharya Sampradaya. This is the answer to your query. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mohit Deshmukh. Sorry, I'm asking to unmute.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you for such an enlightening lecture. My question is, Prabhu, in Tattenu Kumbha verse, Tattenu Kumbham Susamikshamano, wo pad hai Mukti Padayas Sadai Bhag. So what that Mukti means? We know that devotees don't want Mukti, but here it is said Mukti Sadai Bhag. So what here Mukti
So,
means?
Mukti Pada. So basically, the verse you are pointing is the one which I was discussing, one qualification for liberation, which Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura described in the Tattenu Kampam verse from the 10th canto. That even while you are suffering, you do not become unfavorable, you continue to offer your pranams, your obeisances to Bhagavan through your body, mind and words. One who continues to do so he receives mukti pada. Pada can also mean abode. Pada can also mean situation. There are two meanings of the term pada. Pada means abode. Pada also means situation. So, mukti pada can be interpreted in both ways. The situation of becoming liberated as an impersonalist, because an impersonalist can also follow that verse. Somebody may be an impersonalist, and he may also offer his obeisances to Bhagavan while he is patiently suffering the reactions of his previous activities. And now when such a person will get liberated, he will get mukti pada, direct impersonal liberation. And a devotee may also follow that verse. And devotee may continue to offer obeisances to Bhagavan. So devotee will get mukti pada, pada here in meaning abode of mukti, which is one of the remaining four types of mukti which are allowed for a Vaishnava. But they come as a side effect of his exit. They are a side effect. Mukti is a side effect. Mukti is not the main goal of such a devotee. Main goal, as I told you, is like Ishvar Puri. I want to taste the sweetness of Raganuga Bhakti. That is the main goal of the devotee. So, once your goal is set, the process becomes the goal. Then everything is happy. The world becomes full of happiness for you. The process itself is the goal. The process of chanting nicely, tastefully, the process of relishing Bhagavan's Leela Smaran, Gun Smaran, Rupa Smaran, Nama Smaran. That is when that becomes your goal, and you are no longer hankering for, going to a specific destination. Then that situation is very nice. Then Bhagavan has to respond sooner or later. So I hope that satisfies your query.
Next we have Shyama Chandra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for a very nice and beautiful presentation. And I just have a comment. When you're explaining about the tolerance and the sweet will of Krishna, I was thinking about the Lord Damodar pastime. How the Lord bestowed his mercy on Nalakuvera, who were cursed by Narada Muni to become trees, which is actually lower than human life. But the tree has a special quality of a tolerance. So they were standing as the trees for a long time, and ultimately Krishna bestowed the mercy at his free will, which ultimately liberated them.
Right.
So I was contemplating how this quality of tolerance played an important role in the life of Nalakuvera. And interestingly, Narada Muni told that when he cursed that, he told them that, they'll be liberated by Krishna. That means in their mind, they may be already thinking that, patiently waiting for Krishna to come and liberate them. So it was something.
100%. Thank you very much for this reflection. So many devotees waited for so long. Muchikunda waited, these two, Nalkuver, Manigriv waited, everybody they waited, for Bhagavan to come. When Bhagavan came in front of Muchkunda actually he destroyed Kalyavan. It's in the 10th canto. No, Bhagavan, and when Muchkunda saw Bhagavan, Muchkunda couldn't believe his good fortune. Muchkunda said, how is it that I am able to see you? If it would be somebody like me, I would say, yeah, I deserve seeing you. After so long, I deserve seeing you. Muchkunda's statement to Bhagavan is that how is it that I am able to see you? You're not seen by yogis after millions of lifetimes of, understanding the truth through the eyes of the Upanishads. They're not able to see you. How am I able to see you? So, like disbelief after a long wait. I learned something from Muchkunda. Disbelief in seeing Bhagavan after a long wait. So, we should learn something from the character of these devotees. And they're very good and glorious devotees. But as I said, you don't have to suffer in the material world meanwhile. Meanwhile, there is a very blissful process which will ensure that you remain happy in whichever situation you are. And how do we remain happy? The best way of remaining happy is to have a direct experience of Bhakti Ras. Once we have a direct experience of Bhakti Ras, then everything else falls into line. Once you have the substance from the spiritual world directly delivered into your heart, Bhakti Ras, then it's as good as the spiritual world. Only some minor inconveniences are there. So, very good reflection. Thank you very much, Shyamchandra Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
And next we have Bhakti's iPhone.
Bhakti Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the wonderful class and the last shloka, which is extremely hope-giving. My question was, you mentioned quickly about being slack in devotional service. So my question is about the difference between complacency and being patient, and how would I actually understand that I am complacent versus I'm patient? Thank
Very
you.
good. So what is the difference between patience and complacence? A person who is complacent will stop the next thing which Rupa Goswami is going to say, which we'll discuss in the next tat karma pravartanat, to carry out those respective limbs of bhakti. If you stop that, then you are being complacent. But if you don't stop that, if you don't stop executing the required limbs of bhakti, then you are maintaining your favorability towards Bhagavan, then you are patient. So I hope Bhakti Mataji, this simple distinction clarifies. The devotee who is patient will continue to execute tat karma, which will come up in the next talk, those required limbs of bhakti. And the devotee who has become lax will give up tat karma. Then you will see every year one round of Tulsi Mala is reducing. And one final year they say, what is the use of being a hypocrite? Better to be honest and stop wearing Tulsi Mala. Are Baba, you supposed to improve in your bhajan, not supposed to reduce your, not supposed to stop the medicine just because I'm not getting cured. You threw the medicine because you are not feeling that you are getting cured. So you were supposed to take different medicines. Instead, you are saying, what is the use? Let's be honest, the medicine is not working for me. Let's stop the medicine. So wearing Tulsi Mala, carrying out the limbs of bhakti, these are all medicines that are going to work. Some medicines work quickly, some medicines don't work so quickly. So, tat karma. Please continue to execute those respective limbs of bhakti. That is what distinguishes a lax person from a patient person. So I hope this answers your query to some degree of satisfaction.
Yes, it does, Prabhuji. So the limbs are the 5 limbs or the 64 limbs?
Limb begins with 1. In Kali Yuga, Shri Krishna Sankirtan is the one most prominently. Then it expands into 5. Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan, Bhagavad Shravan, Mathurava, Shri Murti Sevan. Then it expands into 9. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. Then it expands into 64. Guru Padashraya, Tasmat, Krishna, Dikshadi, Shikshanam, and so on and so forth. Then it expands into thousands of limbs, which are described in Hari Bhakti Vilas, which goes all the way to the spiritual world, where there are millions of limbs of devotional service. So that is what tat karma. We will see about that in the next talk. Thank you.
Next we have Omkar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam. Thank you, Prabhu. Today's explanation was really good. It really gave a lot of hope for me. Prabhu, I had a question. Like you were speaking that we should have patience and do our sadhana. So while doing sadhana, the important part which you said that we should taste or we should have some relishing in the Krishna bhajan. So sometimes a devotee may become impatient because he's not able to experience maybe not some very high levels of devotional service, but some required level of bhakti. And if it continues for a long time, so it may become that the devotee will in due time slacken the process, because anyone will need some higher taste. And as we know that after ruchi, the actual taste of a bhakti starts. So how can we reconciliate this point?
Yeah. So till the sadhak is ajat ruchi, means till the time ruchi has not arisen in the sadhak, till the time genuine taste has not arisen in the sadhak, it's an uphill struggle. You are correct about it. Sometimes the ruchi doesn't come easily. The sadhak has to carefully evaluate whether I am doing all the prescription, I am carrying out all the prescriptions nicely. The sadhus that the sadhak associates with should be selected carefully. Those sadhus will be described in the future verse in Upadeshamritam. Srila Rupa Goswami is going to say, Tishthan Vraje Tadanuragi Jananugami. Sadhus will be described by Srila Rupa Goswami. In a future verse also, he will say, Anya Nindadi Shunya Hridamipsita Sangaladhya. Those whose hearts are free from the tendency to criticize others and who are completely expert in the art of bhajan. Now, once you are sitting with such a sadhu, that sadhu is capable of two things. First is destroying your doubts. Second is inculcating taste within you. So sit with the sadhu and learn the culture. Devotional service is a culture. Next time I am going to speak about culture. Devotional service is a culture. What is the meaning of culture? I will explain next time. There is the term culture is very important. What is the culture of devotional service? So I'll speak about it. But for the time being, I am saying that you should associate with the proper sadhu who has the proper mood, proper inclination, proper acumen. I am using the term proper acumen on the path of bhakti. So if you do not select a sadhu properly, or if you select a sadhu based on some superficial requirement, I will select a sadhu from my group. So this was not what Rupa Goswami said. Rupa Goswami gave very clear instructions. Last time also I showed Srila Prabhupada said one should be careful to select an Uttam Adhikari. After seeing so many instructions on this subject matter, somebody who does not follow the instructions obviously is not going to get the test. But let's say you have everything. You have the proper sadhu, you have everything, and still one is not getting some taste, then it must be because of some previously embedded, deep embedded aparadh that was committed previously. So aparadh mochan. So specific techniques for getting rid of previous aparadhas should be then taken shelter of, and then shortly one will definitely experience progress. Progress one will experience. Whether one will experience ruchi or bhav, that is by Bhagwan's will. But progress definitely one will experience. This much I can say guaranteed. This will happen. Progress you will definitely experience. I hope this answers your query to a certain degree of satisfaction.
Yes, bro. Thank you, bro. Done.
My problems.
Next we have Dipayan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you. I had a little conceptual question. Like today we have spoken about the devotee being patient through all kinds of miseries, and also the slide you showed about the fructifying of the flowers and fruits. So I had an understanding that generally when Shastra talks about nishkam, it means that sadhak does not feel any emotions only or any desires only. Is that the correct understanding, or does that mean that he's patient because he knows that the fruit will come later or Bhagwan's mercy will come later? And you also quoted that in bhakti also one of the limbs is, to not get affected by happiness, distress. So what does that, I mean, okay, in bhakti at least it's patience only, but in general, what does that word nishkam mean?
So first and foremost, the limb was to not get affected by distress. It's not that to not get affected by happiness, to not get affected by negative emotions in bhakti. So I'm not sure how you got the impression that to not get affected by positive happiness also. I said, and I quoted Srila Prabhupada also, that one should be happy in one's devotional service, happy in one's bhakti. Material happiness and happiness will come and go, that is to be neglected. But happiness should arise from our devotional practice. That is what Prabhupada was saying, that is Srila Rupa Goswami is also saying that. Second thing, you said nishkam, the term nishkam means free of material desires. A living entity is always having kamana, is always having desires, either in the material world or in the spiritual world. So one should have spiritual desires. So Srila Rupa Goswami has so many spiritual desires. Read his poems, you will see all the spiritual desires. Sri Srila Narottam Das Thakur. So you will see so many spiritual desires. Go to Tulsi Arti. So many spiritual desires are being inculcated in you. Seva adhikar diye karo nija dasi. There I should come and tell you, hey, why are you expressing a spiritual desire? You are supposed to be free from all desires. No. You are supposed to have many spiritual desires. Unlimited spiritual desires you are supposed to have. but pertaining to a specific bhakti ras. So first develop the bhakti ras, then develop the spiritual desires pertaining to the bhakti ras. Nishkam doesn't mean you become like an impersonalist and even devoid of spiritual desires. Actually speaking, even the impersonalists, when they get liberated in the spiritual world also, they have desire. In Brahma Jyoti also, they have desires. Who says? Sri Madhavendra says in his commentary to Brahma Sutra Bhashya that Sri Jiva Goswami quotes in Priti Sandarbh. He quotes Sri Madhavendra. He says, Adatte Hari Hastena Haripadena Gacchati Pashyati Hari Netrena Muktasya Shasthithir Bhavet. He quotes Madhavendra. Adatte Hari Hastena, somebody who becomes, who merges into Brahma Jyoti, he accepts things through Hari's hands. Haripadena Gacchati. He walks through Hari's feet. Pashyati Hari Netrabhyam. He sees through Hari's two eyes, Krishna's two eyes. Muktasya Esha Sthitir Bhavet. So he also has desires, but he enacts his desires in an indirect way through Hari's body. Sometimes Hari allows him to enact his desires through his body. So even an impersonalist who gets liberated has desires. And this is one section. There is a section in the Vedanta Sutra in the 4th chapter where it is discussed whether the liberated souls have desires or no desires. So they are obviously supposed to have desires. So this is the answer to your query. Nishkam means free of material desires, and it doesn't mean free of all desires. You should definitely have many spiritual desires. I have many spiritual desires. I encourage all of you, have many spiritual desires pertaining to your perfected position in the spiritual world, and try to realize those desires and be free of material desires. And this is my answer to your query. I hope this satisfies your query to a certain extent.
One clarification. Can I ask now or later?
If there's a quick clarification, you can ask. Yeah.
No, my expression, like you spoke about spiritually. That's, I also agree. My thing, what I wanted to ask was like when the disturbance comes in material life, so that time we experience some sadness or something. So Nishkam person doesn't experience that, or that's what I was wanting to ask.
No. Even
not
if you
about
are
spiritual.
Even if a person is very highly trained, sometimes he experiences disturbance in the material world. But a highly trained person like Jad Bharat also experience disturbance. But very quickly they get over this disturbance. In one of the translations of the 5th canto, this is mentioned. I will try to find out the exact verse where Srila Prabhupada has translated. But in Jad Bharat's case also, it was said that by the sharp words of Rahugana, Jad Bharat's consciousness was little affected, but very quickly he recomposed himself. And there is a comparison given. Just like if you throw a stone in a small puddle of water, there is immediately a large disturbance. But if you throw a stone in a quiet ocean, small stone in a quiet ocean, there is not much of a disturbance. So similarly, the more mature a person is, the quicker they are able to handle disturbances. Disturbances are part and parcel of living in the material world, no matter how advanced you are, even if you are like Jad Bharat. Jad Bharat had decided not to speak, but Rahugan's words disturbed him to some extent that he began speaking. Yeah, Radhika Vallabh Prabhu pointed out. Thank you, Radhika Vallabh Prabhu, for pointing out the verse. This is 5.13.24. Let me pull out that verse very quickly. I will share. Dipayan Prabhu, please have a look at the screen. This is, my dear king, O son of Mother Uttara, there were some waves of dissatisfaction in the mind of Jad Bharat due to being insulted by King Rahugan, who made him carry his palanquin. But Jad Bharat neglected this, and his heart became calm and quiet like an ocean. So I hope, Dipayan Prabhu, this answers your query to a certain degree of satisfaction.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
So should we aspire to be emotionless in regards to anything material?
No. But emotion proof as much as possible. As much as possible, negative emotion proof as much as possible in the material world. Emotionless is not possible. Even Jad Bharat gets affected. There is a verse in when the Avanti Brahmanas chapter begins in the 11th canto. In the first two verses themselves, Bhagavan says something about disturbances in the material world. I will quote this verse, Prabhu. You kindly read the translation, Dhāmeśvara Prabhu. Please read the translation.
Lord Sri Krishna said, O disciple of Brahaspati, there is virtually no saintly man in this world capable of resettling his own mind after it has been disturbed by the insulting words of uncivilized men.
Yeah. So virtually nobody is there. Maybe the sage Narayan in Badrika Ashram may be able to do that. Other people are not able to do that so easily. And then next, see what Bhagavan says. So please read.
Sharp arrows which pierce one's chest and reach the heart do not cause as much suffering as the arrows of harsh, insulting words that become lodged within the heart when spoken by uncivilized men.
Yeah. So this is what happened with Jad Bharat. Sharp words were spoken and this exact effect was seen in the heart of Jad Bharat. He who had decided never to speak suddenly began speaking. So this is Bhagavatam 11th canto 23rd chapter verse number 3 and 4. So Prabhu, this is almost impossible. Bhagavan himself is saying in the Bhagavatam. So the question is not emotion proof. The point we are saying is not emotion free, emotion proof as much as possible. Try to secure your emotions and use them in a positive way on the path of bhakti. Sometimes you'll get agitated. Even the best people will get agitated. Don't worry. It's not a permanent fall down. Bhagavan himself has said that it will happen even with the best of people. It happened with Jad Bharat too. So myself, at least I am not like Jad Bharat. You and me, we are not like Jad Bharat. He's patiently waiting since 3 lives. Still his mind becomes disturbed. So at least we should expect that sometimes it will happen. But let's emotion proof ourselves in the material world, especially in regards to negative emotions as much as possible. Because doing that is one of the 64 limbs of bhakti. So that is the answer to the query. Right?
Thank you. Next we have Vijender Singh.
Yeah.
Asking to unmute.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु, दंडवत प्रणाम।
My pranams.
हाँ, आपने बताया परफेक्शन विल कम बाय हिज विल, परफेक्शन भगवान की कृपा से प्राप्त होगा, तो इट साउंड्स लाइक शरणागति।
Are you able to speak in English so that everyone can understand?
Yeah.
Okay,
Vijender Prabhu, so please ask the query entirely in English so that devotees will be able to understand.
So I want to ask Prabhu, you showed us a slide, perfection will come by his will. We will get perfection by Krishna's will, by his desire. So it sounds like Sharanagati. So what we are supposed to do, what we are following? Are we following the path of Bhakti or Sharanagati? And what is the relation between Bhakti and Sharanagati, I want to ask.
Exactly. So this question is very important. That perfection comes by Bhagavan's will. Ultimately, it comes by his will. But at the same time, Bhagavan's will can sometimes be influenced by our sadhan practice. So ultimately, it is Bhagavan's will, but we are always lobbying that, for lack of a better term, we are always lobbying to change Bhagavan's will. So in the Shri Vaishnava Sampradaya, because I think your question originates from the point of view of this Sampradaya, in the Shri Vaishnava Sampradaya, they don't call it the path of bhakti, they call it Prapatti Marga. Prapatti Marga means the path of Sharanagati, the path of complete surrender. That is Prapatti Marga. And very valid path. Yes, surrender to Bhagavan with all your faults, Bhagavan will take care. So this is the Shri Vaishnava understanding. Srila Rupa Goswami's understanding in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu is twofold. That one, it arises by Bhagavan's mercy also, perfection. Sometimes you influence Bhagavan's mercy by your sadhan. Both things are possible. So where does Srila Rupa Goswami say this? So when he discusses the cause of bhakti, sadhana viniveshena Krishna tad bhaktayos, let me point out the verse. This is Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu 1, 3, 6. So I am sharing the verse. It is in front of you. Sadhan abhiniveshena Krishna tad bhaktayostatha prasadena ati dhanyanam bhavodvedha abhijayate. Bhav arises because for perfection means bhav bhakti, prem bhakti. It arises in two ways. Sadhana abhiniveshana. One either carries out Raganuga sadhan or Vaidhi sadhan very nicely and influences Bhagwan's opinion. Or Krishna tad bhaktayos tata prasadena. Or either simply by the mercy of Krishna or his devotee. Dvedha bhavo abhijayate. In these two ways, bhav arises. So you can see there is a marked difference from the thought process of the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, that the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya focuses on prasadena, simply by the mercy of Bhagavan. That is the main criteria. You surrender and Bhagavan will give his mercy at his desired time. Whereas Sri Rupa Goswami also says sadhan abhinivesh. If you are a Vaidhi Bhakta, follow Vaidhi sadhan. If you are a Raganuga Bhakta, follow Raganuga sadhan. But sadhan you must follow. And abhinivesh, thorough execution of sadhan bhakti. So Vijendra Prabhu, I hope that I am able to answer your query to some degree of satisfaction. Let's unmute Vijendra Prabhu and ask. Vijendra Prabhu, yeah.
Yes,
I hope
Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
this answered the query to some degree of satisfaction.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Your question was coming from a Sri Vaishnava point of view, am I correct?
No, just it came on its own, Prabhu.
Yes, it's all right. So that question has some relevance because Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya is not exactly called Bhakti Marg, they call it Prapatti Marg, the path of complete surrender. And whereas we call our Gaudiya Vaishnavas call themselves Bhakti Marg. Bhakti Marg means twofold path, either through sadhan or either through mercy. Now, through sadhan, Shri Rupa Goswami says, Adyastu prayikas tatra dvitiyo viralodaya. The first one is generally the case of attaining perfection. So generally it is by sadhan bhakti, either by Vaidhi bhakti or Raganuga bhakti. And dvitiyo viralodaya. In some rare cases, the second happens. That simply by the mercy of Bhagavan it happens. So both these things are there. Right? Thank you, Prabhu.
Next we have Raj Parikshit Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. Thank you very much for such a nice class. And thank you for quoting in the end the verse by Param Pujya Ishvar Puri Maharaj. It was very nice. Prabhuji, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says the same thing. Mama Janmani Janmaneshware Bhautad Bhakti Rahitu Ki Tvai.
Right.
And Tukaram Maharaj also says same thing. Hechi Dana Dega Deva Tuja Visarana Bhava. And Nalage Mukti Dhana Sampada. So we often hear that we want unmotivated devotion, but in ISKCON simultaneously we hear that we have to go to spiritual world also. So I think today you have answered this question to some extent, but can you please elaborate? Last time you discussed about Nishchayat. So which kind of Nishchay is better and how to reconcile both these things? Going back to spiritual world and having taste here only, Jivan Mukti and Vidaya Mukti.
Right. So going back to the spiritual world is called as Mukti. Mukti means one of the 4 types of Mukti. There are total how many types of Mukti? There are 5 types of Mukti. It is described in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Salokya Sarishti Samipya Sarupya Aikatvam Apyuta Diyamanam Na Grinanti. So that verse says there are 5 types of Mukti. It's in the 3rd canto. What are the 5 types of Mukti? One of them is Aikatvam, Sayujya, merging in the Brahma Jyoti. So that Mukti is definitely not desired by the Vaishnavas. Now your question is, you said in ISKCON that we say to go back home, back to Godhead. Yes. So what is more desirable, to go back home, back to Godhead, or to desire Bhava and Prem Bhakti no matter where you are? So the answer to this is given by Srila Rupa Goswami himself. Srila Rupa Goswami has given the answer in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. And Srila Rupa Goswami's answer is not ISKCON specific. It is all Vaishnava specific. So It's not only ISKCON. It's like any Gaudiya Vaishnava. Because there are many Vaishnavas outside ISKCON also who may think that I want to go back home, back to Godhead. So Srila Rupa Goswami has given an answer for all Vaishnavas, whether they are belonging to any society. And I don't want to single out ISKCON, because sometimes when we start talking about institutions and their rules and preaching, so that muddies the water. What I want to do is speak about general principles. What has Srila Rupa Goswami said? Everybody should pay attention to the words of the Acharya whose followers we are. All of us say that we want to be Rupanuga. Let's see what Rupa Goswami says. Srila Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu something about going back to Godhead. In second chapter, verse number 55 of the Eastern section, he says, Atra tyajya tayai vokta muktihi panchavidhapi chet salokyadis tathapyatra bhaktya na ati virudhyate. He says, Atra tyajya tayai vokta mukti. Actually, I earlier said, Rupa Goswami says, I earlier said all 5 types of mukti should be rejected. Panchavidhapi, all 5 types are to be rejected. But Salokyadi, 4 of them, except for becoming one with Brahmajyoti, the remaining 4, Atra Bhaktya na ati viruddhite. They are not very much against bhakti. see the statement of Rupa Goswami. The remaining 4 are not very unfavorable to bhakti. So, which means Sri Rupa Goswami is saying that these liberation can be accepted if they are favorable to our bhakti. Now, this is a stark contrast with somebody who has zero choice in life. Somebody like myself who, do you want to go back home, back to Godhead? Yes, today itself. Which back to God? Just anything. That's not what is desirable. Sri Rupa Goswami says, I will not take it if it is not favorable to my specific flavor of bhakti. See this level of customization and personalization that Srila Rupa Goswami is exhibiting in his desires. That is the attitude that we are supposed to have. This attitude is also reflected in the behavior of Gopakumar. He went to the spiritual world all the way to Ayodhya, and in Ayodhya he is feeling little dissatisfied. Now somebody might say, hey, you got a chance to go to the spiritual world. Hello, what are you thinking? Accept whatever you get. Or if my mind will say to myself, beggars are not choosers, take what you get. So that's not the case with the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. The Rupanugas, they have a very specific type of utkantha. They have a very specific type of desire that they want to attain. And unless they get that specific fruit from that specific tree of that specific forest in Sri Vrindavan, they are not going to settle down anywhere else. They would rather take a birth again and be associated with the devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I hope that clarifies. Let's unmute Raj Parikshit Prabhu and let's ask him if it clarifies his query.
Yes, Prabhuji, but which kind of nishaya is better? Going back to our desired spiritual world goal, or to be in this material world?
Whichever is more favorable for your execution of bhajan, whether here or there, that you decide on a case-to-case basis. But whichever is more favorable for the execution, for your smaran, for your japa, for your kirtan, whatever is more favorable, that you desire, that you can select on an individual basis. The freedom is there with you. So that is the answer to your query.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Radhika.
We're nearing the end here. We have a couple second questions. Maybe we could do them quickly.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay. Bishwadeep Prabhu. Oh, asking to unmute.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I have a small query on Ucharan. Suppose the first verse that you have composed yourself. So there is a Anuswaran Visarga. Suppose Rupam. So there is Anuswar, and in English we write M and we give a dot. So it is like, is it Rupam or Rupam? Like, is it Sanskrit or Sanskrit? And the Visarga part, are we supposed to say, suppose Sangatyaga Sato Vritte? So sato vrittehe, that pronunciation is correct, or in any slok while chanting the slok, and is it different for just normal conversation? That is the question.
So this is a question related to grammar. So question related to grammar means it gets a little technical, because many people, they don't understand shiksha or vyakaran so much very easily. I'll try to explain to you. You first asked about anuswar. Anuswar is the sound. Like I said, rupam, Shri Rupam pranamamyaham. Rupa, let me take you to that slide so that devotees can also follow what we are speaking about. So I'll share the slide again, and Shri. Now you can see here Shri Rupam, and this is anuswar. It is called as anuswar. It is pronounced as and it has to have a slight, very slight nasal touch. Shri Rupam pranamamyaham. So it has to have a slight nasal touch. And then when this particular anuswar, sometimes it in combination with other terms, it changes. Okay, so if sometimes when it is inside a particular term, it changes. So for example, let me say like this, that if I say, aham, aham Krishnaha, somebody says aham Krishnaha. So here will sound like But if the next word changes, that aham Gauraha, so then it will change to aham Gauraha. It will change to the fifth syllable of that particular line. So there is a rule for that. But that is basically anuswar. Visarga is aha, ihi, uhu. That is how the sounds are made. Krishnaha, vidhihi, dhenuhu. So aha, that H. So that makes the sound aha, ihi, uhu, based on what swara is before it. That is the answer to your query. All right.
And lastly, we have Bhavya Bhagavan Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you, Shri Prabhupada. Prabhuji, I'm still not sure if I did understand it the right way. So can you please help me understand what you meant by being emotion free with respect to negative emotions, and how being emotion free is different from being emotionless, Prabhu?
I said emotion proof. Emotion
Emotion
proof
proof.
means,
So sorry. Yeah, so sorry.
Emotion proof means you have whenever a negative emotion comes, you have your defenses. Sometimes some negative emotions still see through your defenses of your mature mind and manage to enter into your heart. So that is what we call proofing. Like a building,
so they penetrate our false ego?
No. Let me explain. So like a building, you paint and you do some waterproofing. But after a few years, some water still manages to enter. So you to reinforce it. So similarly, you have your mature understanding of bhakti, and for a long time it works. But then there comes a situation which manages to pierce your maturity level and manages to affect you. So go back, take some quiet time and reflect upon it, do some introspection and build stronger. So that next time it happens, it won't affect you again. So that is what you call proofing yourself. Emotion free is impossible. As I said, Jad Bharat is also affected. Krishna says in the 11th canto, no saintly person is there who will not remain unaffected. So that I have said with pramanas, I have shown you. Everybody will become affected sooner or later. But proofing is required. How many layers of mature proofing do you have, which will prevent negative emotions from entering into your heart? So that level of emotional proofing is required on the path of bhakti.
Prabhuji, how can we become emotionally proof?
You can become emotionally strong by remembering the verse of Sri Vallabhacharya. Remember the queen who was selling buttermilk. Nothing surprises me anymore. I hope you're able to. This is one very good realization that a devotee has. Nothing surprises me anymore in the material world. Second thing is, how do you become, in order to become more emotionally mature, one has to learn the art of immediately detaching oneself from a situation. Don't get involved in the nitty-gritties of that situation. Sometimes some situations are just a storm in a teacup. And instead of jumping into the teacup, it's better to watch it from a distance. So every day, right now in the society of devotees also, you will see some or the other issue is going on. Every time. Right now also, the society of devotees, they are debating some one or the other topic. And then they will come to you with an emotional statement. Prabhu, what do you think about this? I don't think anything about this. I don't think anything about this. Yeah, I have so much Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is remaining to study. What do I think about this? I have to think about Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu here. What do you think about whether this person is eligible or that person is ineligible? I don't have time for thinking about this. So my emotions are in my spiritual life. My spiritual life is taking such a big toll on my emotions, so I don't have time to invest my emotions outside. So that should be a good condition of a sadhak. That, he is immersed in his own spiritual life. There's so many headaches in my own spiritual life, and then on top of that, people are coming to me and saying that, what about this, what about that? No, sir, I don't have time. My spiritual life is of utmost value here, and I may die anytime. Before that, I have to perfect a specific type of bhakti and desire that Srila Rupa Goswami has given. So, yeah, you always own the option of having no option, as Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu has quoted in the chat. So this is from the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius. So he was a king, I think, Marcus Aurelius, and he was one of the prolific composers of literature on Stoicism. So you always have the opinion to say no. And this is also specified by Narad Muni in 7th canto. I have specified that verse. Okay, man. Yeah. Okay. Okay. What do you think about this, Prabhu? Should this be done or should this not be done? Okay, Prabhu. Tell me, do you want to have ice cream, Bhave Bhagavan Prabhu? Let's go for ice cream. Chalo.
No, bro. It's very cold in Delhi.
Oh,
it's very cold.
You're not Sahriday. Come to Mumbai. Right? We'll have ice cream. Okay, chalo.
So, Prabhuji, if we try to come to the platform of soul, then also it's like doing emotional proofing. At least when we are put into some negative situation, then
we can barely hear you. It sounds like you're really far away from the mic.
So, Prabhu, what I'm saying is, when we are put into some negative situation, if we immediately think ourselves as a soul, so is that also like emotional proofing?
Don't think like a jnani. No, don't think like a jnani. You don't have to always. In the spiritual world, you have a spiritual body. In the material world, you have a material body. There is only one place where the body doesn't exist. That is the Brahma Jyoti. Because in that place, he enjoys through the limbs of Hari. He doesn't have his own limbs for enjoyment. I specified that verse from Madhvacharya. So in the spiritual world, you are going to have emotions. In the material world, you are going to have emotions. But be mature enough to detach yourself from a situation as a devotee, not as a jnani. Although Prabhupada said many times that you should see yourself as the soul, and Krishna instructed that to Arjun in the beginning of the 2nd chapter. Arjun was not able to appreciate that line of thought, so Krishna had to change tracks in the 2nd chapter itself and change from Jnana Yoga to Karma Yoga. So please don't try to think like a jnani because you are on the path of bhakti. Think like a bhakta. Whether this is favorable for my bhakti or not favorable for my bhakti. That maturity you should have. Don't think like a soul. Because even if you're a soul, you have a body in the spiritual world. That body is waiting for you. So think from that point of view. What will be favorable to attainment of that spiritual body? That is what I would like to say. All right?
Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhuji. Now I am convinced, Prabhu. Thank you.
100%. See, everything. Thank you. So, no more queries means only 2 things. Either everybody understood everything or everybody understood nothing. All right. So I hope it's the former, not the latter. But I thank everybody very much. Okay.
Nashtamoha Smriti Labdha 20%. Prasad.
Yeah. That's what a backbencher will also say. All right. Thank you. Thank you very
All
much.
right. So,
Yeah?
do we have to set any option to let everyone unmute?
Yeah, I've already asked. Right.
Okay. So I'll invite everyone to unmute and give a big thank you to Hari Parshad Prabhu for this wonderful class.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Prabhu.
much.
Ji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hare
everyone. Thank
Krishna.
you so much, Prabhu.
His Grace
Jai Shri
Hari
Prabhupada.
Parshad Prabhu.
Jai.
Thank you, everyone.
Srila
Hare
Prabhupada.
Jai.
Jai.
Thank you. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare.
Hare
Thanks so much, Prabhuji. Looking
Thank
forward to seeing you next week.
Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Best wishes. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna,
Hare
everyone.
Hare
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Happy New Year to everyone.